When I opened my eyes again, the vividly clear scene before me left me dazed for a couple of seconds. It wasn't until I saw Emily, who looked much younger, not far away, that I finally understood. She was wearing a school uniform so faded it had turned almost white. She twisted the faucet open and let water stream over her head. Laughing, she asked, "So, do you think they'll believe me, or you?" That moment, it hit me. This was the day when everything began. The day I was accused of bullying her in my previous life. Seeing me standing frozen, Emily's smile deepened. "Figured out how you're going to apologize yet?" Rage surged through me, a mix of old and new resentment. I stormed toward her, grabbed her hair, and dragged her into the bathroom. Her sudden, piercing scream filled the air, but I ignored it. I shoved her face into the filthy toilet. "Think sprinkling a little water on yourself is enough to pin me as a bully?" I sneered. "Let me show you what real bullying looks like." Emily flailed wildly, her arms flapping like they were powered by motors. But she couldn't escape my grip. Her face remained pressed into the dirty water, and she choked out muffled cries. "Rebecca, let me go," she screamed, her voice garbled. I laughed loudly. "With a mouth that filthy? Make sure to wash it clean before you go crying to someone later." Whether this was some twisted hallucination after death or me being thrown back in time, I didn't care. I was completely unhinged. In my previous life, I died on what was supposed to be the brightest day of my life. That day, I won my third Best Actress award, dressed in a custom couture gown, standing on stage at my lavishly live-streamed engagement party with my childhood sweetheart and fiancé, Jack. But he announced in front of everyone, "I will never marry someone who was a bully in high school." As I stood there, stunned, Emily emerged from the crowd, tears in her eyes, and smiled up at me. "Rebecca, do you remember me? The Emily you bullied for 10 years? I bet you never imagined that one day I'd stand on equal footing with you. But don't worry, I've already forgiven you." Her words triggered a media storm. Overnight, Emily became an internet sensation. Before I could react, the journalists that my brother and Jack had arranged swarmed in. "Miss Rebecca, we've heard that you still bully newcomers on set. Is it true that you recently visited a gynecologist because of improper conduct leading to disease?" Then, a crazed fan rushed forward, throwing a bottle of acid at my face. "Die, you whore." The searing pain spread across my face like wildfire, and my vision blurred for the last time. The fall from heaven to hell happened in an instant. Snapping out of the memory, I let go of Emily. She collapsed to the ground, barely breathing, her face dirted and far from the innocent, pure look it once had. I couldn't hold back my laughter. "Go on. Cry. Scream. Take that face and tell the whole world I bullied you." My voice rose slightly at the end, and I remembered the pain of having my features melted by acid in my past life. I stomped on her face twice more before turning to leave. Outside the school building, my desk mate, Sarah, was waiting for me. "P class started ages ago. What were you doing upstairs?" "Bullying the new transfer student," I replied casually. Sarah's eyes widened in shock. "What?" I smirked. Mark Twain once said, "If everyone thinks you're a bully, you might as well be one." Did he really say that? Does it matter? We walked to the edge of the sports field, where we ran straight into Jack. He wasn't in my class, but everyone in school knew he was my childhood sweetheart and boyfriend. Jack's gaze lingered on my face briefly before shifting to something behind me. "Rebecca, why are you so late? By the way, I heard your class has a new transfer student." In my previous life, every time Emily dragged my name through the mud, he always made me apologize to Emily, taking the matter into his own hands. On the surface, seemed like he was on my side, but with just a few words, he would confirm my guilt and solidify the narrative that I was a bully. Thinking about this, I raised my hand without warning and slapped him across the face. Sarah, standing to the side, was once again stunned, while Jack's expression remained unchanged. His eyes briefly darkened, but then his lips curled into a familiar, almost affectionate smirk. He leaned closer, brushing his cheek against mine. "What's wrong? Rebecca, are you in a bad mood?" It wasn't until much later in my previous life that I learned the truth. When Jack was a child, his mother abandoned him at an amusement park. He was taken in by an orphanage for a time. where he met a cheerful little girl who became his sole source of light. She shared her bed with him and gave him a piece of candy, the only warmth he had ever known in his life. That light was Emily. On his very first day at our school, Jack recognized her immediately. He always believed Emily's stories about me bullying her. He hated me to his core. But because of his status as an illegitimate child, he had to endure and pretend to be on good terms with me. He needed our engagement to secure his place within my family's sphere of influence. With these thoughts swirling in my mind, I said, "Let's break up." His pupils contracted sharply. "Why? Give me a reason." "Rebecca." I pulled out a tissue and carefully wiped my cheek where his face had brushed against mine. "I don't want to date the son of a mistress. It's disgusting. Is that reason enough for you?" As I walked away, Sarah cautiously asked, "Rebecca, are you possessed or something?" Her question didn't surprise me. In high school, I had been openly and passionately in love with Jack. I waited for him every day after school, baking cookies with so much enthusiasm that I often burned my hands, only to deliver them to him with a smile. My affection was so obvious that everyone knew about it. But things were different now. The Rebecca from junior year of high school had died. The person standing here now was someone who had already lived and died once. Emily didn't show up for the rest of the day. I knew she prided herself on her innocent and flawless appearance, and she wouldn't make a move unless she could use it to her advantage. That was fine. I was patient. Soon, Saturday arrived. My 18th birthday. My parents had promised to throw me a grand celebration to mark my coming of age. However, some urgent matters at their company delayed them. Under the sparkling glow of the crystal chandelier, I descended the spiral staircase in a custom-made cocktail dress. In the living room, I spotted my brother, Nathan, standing tall in a sharp suit. His expression was cold as he called out to me, "Rebecca, come here." I approached, pretending not to notice Jack and Emily lingering in the background. Emily's gaze was sharp, while Jack's was unreadable. Smiling sweetly, I asked, "Nathan, what is it? Did you prepare a gift for me?" Nathan's cold eyes bore into me for a moment before he spoke. "Bullying classmates. Insulting friends. Is this what the Rebecca of the Liu family has been taught?" His voice was loud and unrelenting, enough to draw the attention of every guest in the room. "What are you talking about, Nathan? I don't understand," I said, tilting my head toward Emily as if confused. "Who did I insult? When did I bully anyone? I don't even know her." It's too late to deny it now. Actions have consequences. And today, with Mom and Dad not here, I'll discipline you on their behalf. With that, Nathan pulled a ruler from the nearby display shelf and looked at me sternly. "Kneel." In the expansive banquet hall, countless eyes turned to watch the scene unfold, their expressions filled with anticipation. Bullying classmates? The daughter of the Liu family would do something like that. Well, kids raised in wealth tend to be jealous of others who outshine them. It's not surprising. At least her brother seems fair. He's not covering for her. Amidst the mocking stares and whispered gossip, Emily's gaze was triumphant, filled with provocation. I straightened my back, smiling with a mocking edge to my tone. "Brother, what nonsense are you spouting? For those who know, they'd think you're Nathan Liu. For those who don't, they might think you're some wandering ghost from the Qing dynasty." I tilted my head slightly, giving him a deliberate once-over, then laughed maliciously. "Here's an idea. Go outside and find a building to jump off. I'll kneel right here, bow 3 times, and see you off properly." Nathan's face darkened instantly. Behind him, Emily spoke up in her usual pretentious tone. "Rebecca, I know you don't like me, and I can accept that you bully me, but how could you speak to your own brother like that?" Her wide eyes shimmered with tears, her expression full of forced innocence, as if she were some wronged saint. Jack, standing nearby, glanced at her, and for a moment, a strange shadow flickered in his gaze. Then, in a low voice, he said, "Rebecca, since you made a mistake, why not just admit it and apologize? There's no need to." I widened my eyes, pretending to be confused. "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't understand dog barks. Could you say that again in a language us humans can comprehend?" "That's enough," Nathan snapped, his voice sharp. "Rebecca Liu, you're a young woman. Do you even understand what shame is? Who taught you to speak so foully? So without decency? He was just as he had always been, never believing anything I said, always judging me with prejudice. Time and time again, he nailed me to the proverbial cross of shame. I pulled the corners of my lips into a cold smile, mimicking his demeanor. Mom and Dad are busy and have no time to teach me. So, guess who did? Of course, it was you, my dear brother. In my previous life, I had always been afraid of Nathan. He was much older than me and had always been an imposing figure in my eyes. When we were children, our parents were busy running the family business, so it was up to him to manage me. Whenever I made a mistake, he'd strike my palms with a ruler or forbid me from eating. One time, I found a curly-haired stray puppy and brought it home. He refused to let the housekeeper open the door for me, saying, "It's filthy. This house doesn't welcome such things." I ended up sitting on the steps outside, clutching the puppy all night. Back then, I thought that was just his personality, strict and incapable of showing the kind of warmth other brothers might give their little sisters. It wasn't until Emily appeared that I realized he did know how to be gentle. He just wasn't gentle with me. I'd seen him sitting in the car with Emily, handing her a warm cup of milk and stroking her hair as he reminded her to eat 3 proper meals a day. I'd also seen Emily pick up a frail stray cat on a rainy day, and he held an umbrella for her, softly asking, "Do you want to keep it?" Once, when Emily got drunk, she clung to his shirt, babbling nonsense. He listened patiently, his eyes full of tenderness. In my previous life, I had been trapped in the illusion of love, wondering why my brother didn't care for me, and why my fiancé never stood by my side. Now, having lived and died once, I understood. I was a complete, independent individual, and I didn't need love to survive. That birthday banquet ended without resolution. When I refused to back down in my confrontation with Nathan, my parents finally returned. They politely thanked the guests and saw them out. Emily attempted to play the victim in front of my mother, but my mom shut her down with a smile. "I'm sorry, young lady. We Lu family members will handle our matters internally. Please leave." Emily stiffened, her tears barely restrained. She cast a pleading glance at Nathan before reluctantly turning and leaving. Once the house was empty except for Nathan, my parents, and me, my father finally spoke, his voice stern. "All right, now tell me what happened." Before Nathan could open his mouth, I interrupted. "No need to ask him. I'll explain." I quickly interrupted. "Recently, a new transfer student arrived at our school. On her very first day, she went crazy, pouring water over her own head, and then insisting that I did it, accusing me of bullying her. Later, I found out that this person is the same Emily you've been secretly sponsoring from that impoverished province." Nathan, who had been sitting on the couch, abruptly lifted his head to look at me, his eyes filled with shock. "Surprised, aren't you, Nathan?" I said with a bitter smile, my voice trembling slightly as I pressed my reddened eyes. "You two thought you could hide it, but I found out so soon." I took a shaky breath. My voice choked. "Actually, I don't blame her. It's just a birthday. After all, what hurts is that my own brother doesn't believe me. Does the world only have space for Emily to play the innocent victim? Is she the only one allowed to manipulate others with a facade?" My feigned sobs filled the room, and my father slammed down his decision with authority. "Enough. It doesn't matter who bullied whom. No one is to make a scene anymore. If this gets out, it will reflect badly on all of you. This matter ends here." Back at school, I began openly retaliating against Emily. I poured ink into her desk drawer, mocked her loudly whenever she recited English with her accent, and tore her physics test paper into pieces, letting them rain over her head. "Go ahead. Report me," I said with a smile. "Isn't that what you're best at?" A piece of shredded paper floated down from her hair. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a deep, burning resentment. In the end, she trembled, crying as she apologized. "I'm sorry, Rebecca. I'm so sorry. If I've done anything to make you unhappy, I'll change. I'll make it better. You being alive makes me unhappy," I said with raised eyebrows, feigning curiosity. "How are you planning to fix that?" "By dying right now." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. All she could do was cry harder. For the first time, I realized how satisfying it was to embrace my role as the villain. Of course, she went to tell the teacher. I was called to the office, but I cried as I recounted what had happened at my birthday party, pulling out a hospital certificate to prove my point. Because of her slander, my brother humiliated me in front of everyone. Every time I think about it, I cry. I even wake up from nightmares. I'm still seeing a therapist and taking medication. The doctor says I'm severely depressed. In the end, the teacher had to comfort me. Everyone could see that I didn't like Emily. Sarah, perplexed, asked me, "Why do you target her so much? Did she do something awful to you?" I tilted my head and grinned. Can't I just be a bad person who looks down on a poor new student because my family is rich? Come on. She rolled her eyes. If you were that kind of person, why didn't you bully me? My family's way poorer than hers. On the first day we became friends, you bought all my school supplies for 3 years. If someone told me you were a bully, I'd sooner believe I'm the reincarnation of Wu Zetian. Exactly. Everyone can see that. Except my brother and the person I used to love. I replied, curling my lips into a faint smile that didn't reach my eyes. A month later, the school's centennial celebration arrived. In my previous life, Emily had performed a piano solo at the evening gala, orchestrated by Nathan and Jack. A talent scout from the university's special admissions program noticed her, and she was awarded the only direct admission slot. As for me, I had trained in dance since I was 4 years old, dedicating over a decade to mastering classical dance. I had planned a performance for the event, but then Jack approached me. Under the glow of the setting sun on campus, he held me in his arms. The doctor said. He hesitated, looking into my eyes. Could you not perform? Rebecca, I don't want so many people to see how beautiful you are. I'll get jealous. Just dance for me. Okay. Back then, I was such a fool, basking in his words as if they meant he cared about me. On the day of the performance, I didn't perform at the Centennial Gala. Instead, in an empty dance studio, I danced for Jack over and over again. When the final note ended, a thunderous wave of applause erupted from the distant auditorium. Jack heard it and suddenly laughed, a laugh I'd never seen from him before. He was always so quiet and reserved around me, his smiles faint and fleeting, as if hidden behind a veil. It was the first time I saw such a clear surge of emotion from him. I stopped my dance, my heart pounding, and asked foolishly, "Are you happy?" He paused for a moment. Yes, happy. At the time, I thought his happiness came from me dancing solely for him. Much later, I realized his joy stemmed from Emily's performance, which had been a resounding success. She, the only light in his life, now had a bright and glorious future ahead. Determined not to be overshadowed, I submitted a revised version of my dance performance. This time a group piece. I rallied every girl in my class interested in performing and choreographed a classical group dance. I paid out of pocket for the best costumes and props, sparing no expense. Compared to that, Emily's simple piano solo in a white dress seemed lackluster. I don't know what Emily cried about in front of Nathan, but that evening, as I returned home from school, he stopped me in the garden. "Rebecca," he said, his face devoid of emotion, "withdraw your performance from the Centennial Gala." I smiled faintly. "Nathan, are you barking again?" His eyes turned icy, and his voice sharpened. "Don't think I'm negotiating with you. If you insist on going through with it, face the consequences." I paused, staring into his cold, mocking eyes. "So, your little white flower has been playing piano for over a decade, and still doesn't have the confidence to compete with me on stage? What a useless waste." As the gala approached, Jack found me. "Rebecca," he said softly, "about last time. It was my fault, but you blocked me everywhere and won't meet with me. I don't even know what's going on anymore. Do you hate me now? Or have you fallen for someone else?" His voice trembled slightly on the last few words, as if carrying a sharp pain. A surge of anger, mixed with a piercing ache, flared in my chest. In the past, I truly loved him for so many years. He didn't like me filming kissing scenes, so I turned down countless career opportunities for him. He said Emily had a hard life, growing up bullied in an orphanage, and asked me not to take things too seriously with her. I forgave her again and again, even when she crossed the line. All I ever wanted was to exchange my sincerity for his. But all I got in return was their decade-long lies, slander, and hatred. That moment, I couldn't even be bothered to keep up appearances. I grabbed Jack by the collar and shoved him hard against a nearby tree. He winced and drew a sharp breath from the pain, but before he could say a word, I slapped him across the face. Without hesitation, a red welt appeared on his pale skin. I leaned in, my voice sharp and deliberate. "You've known Emily for years. I already know that. You like her, don't you? So why come to me, pretending to care? Trying to string me along while being her lapdog on the side? You're just as disgusting as your home-wrecking mother." As I finished, his expression twisted, a storm brewing in his eyes, but he said nothing. I sneered and let him go, turning on my heel to walk away. That night, I had a vivid dream, a haunting one. I dreamt of what happened after my death in my previous life. After the cake knife plunged into Emily's chest, I died in excruciating pain. She was rushed to the hospital and saved. Outside her hospital room, Jack furiously confronted Nathan. "You said you'd handle everything." Nathan brushed off Jack's hand coldly and said, "I've already agreed to share control of the Liu family with you. But don't forget, you're just an illegitimate child. Without my help, do you really think you could hold sway in the Liu family? Don't push your luck." Jack staggered back a few steps, his voice trembling as he retorted, "You're helping me? Are you sure about that?" He stopped mid-sentence. His words caught in his throat as Nathan interrupted with a cold laugh. "Yes, it was my sister who helped you. But she's already dead. And don't forget, you were the one who personally arranged for the person to throw acid on her. Have you forgotten that?" Jack stood there in stunned silence. The red light above the operating room door continued to flash. Moments later, Emily was wheeled out. The doctor informed them that the patient was still in critical condition. Jack's gaze swept over Emily's pale, lifeless face. His hands trembled briefly before his voice steadied. "I haven't forgotten, and I'll never regret it." I woke from the dream with a start, stumbling into the bathroom, gripping the toilet bowl. I dry-heaved for a long time. When I finally straightened up and looked at myself in the mirror, I saw the bloodshot eyes of a woman filled with hatred. "Never regret?" I muttered. "That's fine. In this life, you'll regret everything. You'll even regret being born." When the day of the school's centennial gala finally arrived, I encountered Emily by the artificial lake on campus. She wore a subtly luxurious silver evening gown, and an expensive diamond necklace adorning her neck and shoulders. It was obvious that Nathan had bought these things to comfort her. "Rebecca Liu," she said with a smirk, "do you really think your status as the Liu family heiress can protect you forever? After bullying me for so long, did you really think I wouldn't fight back? I'll make you pay 1,000 times over, even if you know about my relationship with Jack. So what? He loves me. Your brother loves me too. People like you will never be loved by anyone." She rattled off her accusations and threats, but I simply smiled and replied, "How did the toilet water taste?" Her face twisted in rage, but I turned and walked away before she could say anything else. By evening, the fiery sunset stretched across the sky. The girls from the dance team and I changed into our performance costumes, holding up our skirts as we made our way to the backstage area. Halfway there, I realized that the prop I had prepared for the finale was missing. Had I left it in the dance studio? I thought for a moment and decided to go back. Sarah asked, "Want me to come with you?" "No need," I replied with a smile. "It's not heavy. I can carry it myself. You guys go ahead and finish your makeup. And make sure the stagehands have arranged the props in the correct order." The massive arts building was eerily quiet. I held up my shimmering gold skirt as I climbed the stairs. But just as I reached the floor of the dance studio, I stopped in my tracks. Standing a few steps ahead of me was a figure. The golden red light of the sunset streamed through the window, illuminating only half of his face. The rest remained shrouded in shadow. His dark eyes were deep, like whirlpools pulling everything into their depths. It was Jack. He spoke softly, his voice heavy with emotion, like a storm about to break. "Rebecca, what are you doing?" "None of your business." I shot back. "Get lost." I tried to walk past him, but before I could, a sudden, massive force grabbed my shoulder. My mind went blank for a second, and the next thing I knew, I was falling backward. The staircase behind me stretched high with dozens of steps. My back hit the edge of a step, and I rolled all the way down, crashing into the iron railing at the bottom. Pain engulfed me, and I could hear the faint sound of a bone cracking in my ankle. Jack slowly descended the stairs, step by step, until he stood next to me. His gaze remained calm and sorrowful, but when he spoke, his voice was chillingly cold. Rebecca, don't blame me. You were born with everything. Even if you missed this chance, there are still plenty of paths open to you. But Emily is different from you. He had already done everything he could within his power. After speaking, Jack gripped my sprained ankle and forcefully slammed my leg against the iron railing. Images from my dream suddenly flashed through my mind. Jack stood outside the hospital room with Nathan, both of them gazing tenderly and lovingly at Emily as she was wheeled out of the operating room. But when they spoke of me, Jack's voice was cold and indifferent. I've never regretted it, he had said. The 15 best years of my life, the most passionate and sincere love I had ever given, were tied to a person like this. I couldn't help but laugh. Just as Jack was about to slam my leg against the railing again, I yanked it out of his grip with all my strength. The sharp pain from my twisted ankle made me catch my breath. But I didn't stop. Taking advantage of his momentary surprise, I grabbed his hair and smashed his head against the iron railing. You lowlife. I spat through gritted teeth. Trying to hurt me again? In your dreams. Jack's head hit the railing with a sickening thud. Blood immediately gushed from the cut on his forehead, running down his face and dripping onto his clothes. Rebecca, he murmured weakly. I released his hair, panting heavily as I struggled to stand. My ankle throbbed with relentless pain, but I didn't care. I looked down at him, his dazed eyes unfocused, and a slow smile crept onto my face. How devoted of you, I said mockingly. You, Nathan's little puppet, willing to sacrifice yourself just to ruin me and secure a future for your precious Emily. Is this the warning Nathan sent me? You two planning to share her now? Disgusting. I lifted my skirt and wiped the blood from his face onto the hem, staining the pale fabric with dark crimson splotches. Then, I left him there and ran toward the auditorium, my heart racing with a mix of pain and fury. From afar, the melodic sound of a piano drifted through the air. It was Emily, playing Debussy's Clair de Lune, the same piece she had performed in my previous life. She sat at the gleaming white grand piano on stage, wearing her silver evening dress. The stage was dark except for a single spotlight that illuminated her, making her look like a star burning brightly in the night sky. Just like in my past life, she used my suffering as her stepping stone, dazzling everyone with her beauty and talent. I ran down the narrow aisle between the rows of seats, shoving aside security guards and the MC who tried to stop me. Climbing onto the stage, I stepped into the single spotlight and kicked over Emily's stool. Keep playing, I shouted, slamming my fist onto the piano keys. The discordant notes echoed in the stunned silence. Emily stared at me, frozen in disbelief. Play, I yelled again. Your little lapdog dared to come after me, and here you are, sitting pretty and playing piano like nothing happened? Play for your father. I knew exactly what I was doing. The special admissions professor, personally invited by Nathan, was sitting in the audience. In my previous life, after listening to Emily's performance, he had offered her the school's only special admission slot. Emily had eagerly accepted, and this had marked the beginning of her illustrious career. With Nathan's meticulous arrangements, she later became the last disciple of a legendary music master. As for me, I had once been cast in a role as a prodigy pianist with autism. My manager arranged for me to study under the same master. But when I encountered Emily during a brief lesson, everything spiraled out of control. That evening, I came home to find Nathan waiting for me at the door. His expression was one of disgust as he said, Rebecca, are you done? Just because you can't compare to Emily in anything, you hate her this much? You even ripped up the handwritten sheet music she prepared for her teacher? You're vile. For a few moments, I was completely stunned. When I tried to defend myself, he cut me off with a wave of his hand. Lies. I don't believe a single word out of your mouth. Back in the present, the uproar from the audience below grew louder. Amid the chaos, I heard someone scream. The whispers grew louder, blending with the chaotic sounds of the audience. "Look at her dress. It's covered in blood and dirt," someone exclaimed, pointing at the mess on my gown. The patches of red and gray smudged together. My disheveled hair and the swelling on my ankle only added to the visual impact, a testament to the truth of what had happened. Emily staggered to her feet, clutching the piano stool for support. Her eyes burned with hatred and resentment. But after a few moments, she masked it all with her usual weak and innocent facade. "Rebecca," she said, her voice trembling with feigned humility, "I don't know what you're talking about. This must be a misunderstanding. But right now, this is my performance. Out of respect for the audience, you shouldn't behave so recklessly." Nathan shot up from his seat, fury etched across his face. "Rebecca Lou, have you gone insane?" I ignored him completely. I shoved Emily aside and sat down on the piano bench, my fingers poised over the keys. With deliberate force, I began playing Beethoven's Symphony No. 5. In my previous life, I had practiced this piece rigorously for 3 months while preparing for a film role. Though I was far from a virtuoso, my performance was more than enough for this moment. The stirring melody reverberated through the grand hall, the vibrant notes colliding with the faint hum of electrical noise echoing off the high ceiling. When the last note faded, I stood and turned to face Emily. My voice was sharp and clear. "You ruined my birthday party, drove a wedge between me and my brother, spread lies about me in front of my family and friends, all petty grievances. I'll deal with them in my own way. But having Jack push me down the stairs to break my leg, just to keep me off this stage? That's beyond contempt." I paused, watching as her face turned ashen. Then I sneered. "You take such pride in your piano skills, yet you don't even have the confidence to compete with me on the same stage." The scene dissolved into chaos. Teachers responsible for the Centennial Gala eventually escorted Emily and me off the stage, leaving the MC scrambling to restore order. The next act was our group classical dance, the one I had choreographed. As I passed the other girls backstage, Sarah rushed to my side, tears in her eyes. She grabbed my hand. "You're hurt, aren't you? I should have gone with you." "I'm fine," I replied, patting her head gently. "Go perform. You've practiced so hard. Make sure you're proud of the result." The first place prize for the Centennial performance was $10,000, but I had never intended the dance for myself. Watching the girls take the stage, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The pain in my ankles surged again, and I closed my eyes as exhaustion took over, sinking into darkness. When I woke up, I was in a hospital room. That night, Nathan burst into the room, his face livid. "Rebecca Lou, you're a lunatic," he shouted. He had planned everything so carefully, aiming to elevate his precious Emily to the pinnacle of glory, nurturing her like a delicate flower. But now, his plans had crumbled. "Brother," I said, laughing through the pain that twisted my features, "how could I possibly let you succeed so easily? Your little white lotus didn't even finish her piece. And your plan to break my leg? It's out in the open now. She'll never get into that school. Oh, and by the way, your accomplice Jack is still lying on the floor of the arts building. Don't forget to send him to the hospital." I clutched the corner of my blanket, laughing hysterically. The pain in my ankle shot through me, making my face contort further. In the reflection of Nathan's pupils, I saw myself, a madwoman. Maybe I had been crazy ever since the day I died in my past life. Nathan's expression twitched, anger flashing in his eyes for a moment before he regained his composure. His face returned to its usual aloofness. "Does it matter, Rebecca? Even if Emily's performance was ruined, you didn't get to dance either. And now, everyone has seen your deranged behavior, captured on video for all to see. This time, your fake medical certificates won't save you. The school has already contacted Mom and Dad. They're preparing to expel you." I laughed again, louder this time. "Expulsion? So what? Do you think I care? Don't forget, Nathan, I'm just as much a child of the Lou family as you are. Like Jack said, even if this path is gone, I'll always have others to walk down. From the beginning, I only had one goal, to drag Emily down. That's all. In my past life, every false accusation Emily made against me, I'm making them real now. Every path she took to success? I'll make sure they pay for everything. Emily, this is far from over. My public meltdown at the Centennial Gala, where I fought both Jack and Emily, along with the prior rumors of me bullying her, spread online like wildfire. The story of a wealthy heiress and a poor girl locked in conflict was, as always, a topic that captured everyone's attention, whether it was 10 years ago or now. But this time, things were different. My clear words on stage, my disheveled appearance, and my furious performance of Beethoven's Symphony No. 5 shifted some of the public opinion in my favor. Maybe it's not always the rich girl bullying the poor one. One comment read, listening to her play, she doesn't seem like that type of person. Are you serious? Since when does piano playing determine someone's character? Not to be that person, but did you see her ankle? Swollen like a balloon. And she's covered in blood. Who bullies someone and ends up looking like that? She's unhinged. Sure. But in a way that's almost admirable. She's 8 versions ahead of the times in terms of crazy. The girls from the dance team, including Sarah, even joined the online debate to defend me. Rebecca isn't like what you're saying. It's Emily who provoked her first. While the internet was ablaze with arguments, I remained in the hospital. I didn't know how Nathan managed to explain everything to my dad. But when I was discharged and returned home, Dad greeted me with a frosty demeanor. You've gone completely out of control while I've been busy. Since your school won't allow you to continue studying there, you'll go abroad. Stay away for a few years until the storm dies down, and then you can come back. His attitude didn't surprise me. Between me and Nathan, Dad always sided with his son. In my previous life, during the engagement party debacle, my dad had still been alive. Nathan couldn't have orchestrated everything without his knowledge. Yet Dad never said a word to me. It didn't matter. I smiled faintly. Fine. You've always wanted to study performing arts. Dad added, should I help you apply to an acting school abroad? I shook my head. I want to study finance. Business. Both Dad and Nathan froze for a moment, exchanging a glance. For the first time, Dad's expression softened slightly, and there was a hint of something deeper in his gaze as he looked at me. My school application was quickly arranged. Meanwhile, Jack's injuries were much worse than mine. By the time I recovered, he was still bedridden in the hospital. I heard Emily went to visit him, consoling him, saying, it's not your fault. Rebecca's heartless. Sarah came to visit me one day, carrying an enormous bouquet of lilies. Those two are the real lunatics, she said, referring to Jack and Emily. They tried to break your leg, and yet you're the one they call heartless. I glanced at the flowers. These must have cost a lot. The prize money was for you girls to keep. Sarah waved me off. It's fine. Everyone chipped in a little when they found out you were going abroad. They told me to buy these for you. She placed the flowers in my hands, took a deep breath, and hesitated before saying, Rebecca, I feel like you know things the rest of us don't. Ever since Emily transferred here, something's been different. I can't put my finger on it. This doesn't make sense. Just forget it. Then, carefully, she leaned in to hug me. Come back soon. Okay, when you're back, we'll still be friends. The night before I left, I sat with my mom on the balcony, the evening breeze brushing against our faces. She kept opening her mouth as if to speak but held back each time. I reached out and held her hand, looking into her eyes. Mom, don't worry about me. In my past life, my mother had passed away in a car accident. When he was around, my dad's favoritism meant that Nathan didn't dare take any drastic action directly against me. Thinking about this, my heart sank. In my previous life, by the time things escalated, Nathan had already lost himself completely to his obsession with Emily. Could my mom's sudden car accident back then have been more than a coincidence? A chill ran through me. I tightened my grip on her hand, as though doing so could shield her from any harm. Please, Mom, take care of yourself. Be careful, especially around Nathan. She looked at me intently, her gaze softening with concern. Rebecca, you've changed. You're not the same as before. She sighed deeply. It's my fault for not guiding you better. You used to be so naive, believing whatever people said. When I told you that Jack wasn't reliable, you defended him. He's not like what you think, Mom. You'd say, On your birthday, when I tried to ask your dad for some shares of the company for you, you dismissed me, saying, "Jewelry and dresses are enough." You drove me crazy. She shook her head wistfully. Back then, I wished you'd be a little smarter, a little shrewder, but if it took something painful to make you like this, I'd rather you had stayed foolish forever. How could a mother not know her own child? In my previous life, I really was a fool, an innocent, always assuming the best in others. That's why Emily managed to trap me again and again. Yet I never truly retaliated. That's why I died at my own engagement party. Don't worry, Mom, I said softly, wiping at my reddened eyes with a small smile. In this world, the weak get devoured. Sweet fools like me are only prey. It's a pity I had to die once to understand that. At 18, I left the country with my luggage in hand. The world around me was entirely unfamiliar. But I wasn't afraid. I already knew too much about what lay ahead. Even though the details were hazy, the key turning points in time were enough for me to act. The most important one would come in 2 years. In my previous life, when I was 20, Nathan received a tip and flew to San Francisco to strike a deal with a man named Joe Hai. This man held cutting-edge core technology that, over the next 5 years, helped Nathan take complete control of the Liu family enterprise. I used the money my mom gave me to invest in the stock market. Armed with scraps of knowledge from my past life, I turned the seed funds into a significant sum. Meanwhile, I doubled down on my coursework, pursuing a dual degree while using my profits to invest in companies that, in my previous life, rose to the ranks of the Fortune 500. At this stage, many of them were just startups. During this time, Sarah contacted me regularly, every week, like clockwork. She sent a voice message. She talked about how much the dance team missed me, and how her life had improved after receiving her share of the prize money. A university recruiter came by recently, she mentioned in one call. Emily participated, of course, but she failed the interview. It's hilarious. One of the interviewers had been at our centennial gala. He said her performance of Claire de Lune was muddled and uninspired, completely overshadowed by your Symphony No. 5. Can you believe it? She laughed. Apparently, Emily cried her heart out to Jack afterward. The more she cried, the brighter my smile got. Later, Sarah updated me on the results of the college entrance exams. You're top of the school, Rebecca, and Emily's only third. Can you believe it? I received the news while juggling finals for my dual degree. Despite the stress, I couldn't help but smile genuinely. Congratulations, Rebecca. I'm still waiting for you to come back so we can stay friends. Sarah's message ended. My mom often called me, updating me on Nathan's recent activities and checking in on how I was doing abroad. She'd ask if I had enough money and whether I was taking care of myself. Whenever I gave her a brief update about my progress, she'd sigh, both proud and helpless. You're still so young, Rebecca. Don't push yourself too hard, she'd say. If you need help with anything, let me know. Don't feel embarrassed about it. Eventually, I told her about Joe Hai, giving her his name and what little information I could recall from my past life. I asked her to quietly investigate him without Nathan finding out. I arrived in San Francisco a month earlier than Nathan had in my previous life, standing outside the school where Joe Hai worked. I was about to ask for directions when I noticed a familiar face on the lawn. It was Joe Hai, several years younger than I remembered. In front of him stood a tall, slender girl with short hair and glasses. Her expression was stern as she glared at him. That's my research, she said coldly. Who gave you permission to use it for commercial negotiations without consulting me? Joe Hai laughed nervously. What's yours is mine, right? We worked on it together. The idea was mine. I conducted the experiments. You just assisted for a while, taking notes. What makes you think you have the right to handle my work? She shot back, unyielding. Joe Hai's face darkened. Chin Jillian, don't push it too far. We're about to graduate. Don't you think I'm doing this for our future? What good is it if you hold on to it? Wouldn't working with a reliable company bring the greatest benefits? It's my work, she replied firmly. The patent is in my name. You don't even know the core technology, and yet you want to find a partner for development? As long as I'm alive, that won't happen. We're done. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. She turned and walked away without looking back. Zhou Hai stood frozen, staring at her retreating figure, his eyes narrowing with a chilling intensity. A flicker of murderous intent passed through his gaze. Watching this scene unfold, I suddenly realized something. In my previous life, I'd once overheard Emily asking Nathan how he managed to secure someone as talented as Zhou Hai. Nathan, lounging by the pool with Emily in his arms, had chuckled and replied, "He needed my help." But in my past life, I had never even heard of Qin Jillian. I made it a point to meet her. We sat down in a quiet cafe far from her school. She got straight to the point. "Miss Liu, I know why you're here, but my work is not for sale." "Why not?" I asked. She hesitated before answering. "Because it's only a prototype right now." I paused mid-sip, lowering my coffee cup. "I understand that business people care about commercial value," she continued, "but I don't. What matters to me is the final result and the revolutionary change it can bring to humanity. That is what's important to me." Her face, bare of makeup, glowed with a brilliance that was hard to describe as she spoke of her ideals. Qin Jillian was a remarkable young woman, someone destined to be remembered in the annals of history as a great scientist. But in my past life, her potential was stolen. She had died in a foreign country, her life extinguished like a speck of dust, crushed under the wheels of greed. "If there's nothing else, Miss Liu, I'll be going," she said, standing up. Before she could leave, I reached out to stop her. "Sincerely," I said, "Miss Qin, I'm willing to provide all the funding and resources you need for your research. All I ask is that, once your work is complete, you help me with a small favor. Your achievements will remain yours, your name forever tied to them in history. Does that sound acceptable?" The day I returned to my home country, the first snow of the season fell softly, blanketing the ground. As I stepped out of the airport with my suitcase in hand, I immediately noticed the billboard beside me, prominently displaying Emily's meticulously made-up face. Over the past few years, while I was abroad, busy establishing my company to compete against Nathan as he took over the Liu Corporation, her had been equally busy. After Emily failed to secure special admission and botched her interviews, Nathan still managed to get her into film school and launch her career in the entertainment industry. His dedication to her was nothing short of astonishing. I laughed mockingly and got into the car. The vehicle drove through snow-covered streets and pulled up in front of my company. 3 days later was another critical juncture, a bidding meeting for a significant project. For 3 days, Qin Jillian and I worked tirelessly at the company, perfecting our proposal to ensure its success. When the day of the bid arrived, everything went according to plan. We won the contract without suspense. As the announcement was made, I stood up from my seat, meeting Nathan's shocked gaze from across the room. "Rebecca," he said, his voice laden with disbelief. I smirked, tilting my head slightly. "Long time no see, brother." As the meeting ended, he chased after me, cornering me in the hallway. His tone was still laced with incredulity. "Lan Shen is your company? And Qin Jillian? Did you hide her after she disappeared? You seem so eager." "Nathan," I replied with a laugh. "Hide her? What do you mean? You don't even know her. So why are you so desperate to find her? Planning something illegal? Perhaps." His eyes narrowed dangerously, but I laughed again and walked away, leaving him standing there. This return to my home country was nothing short of dramatic. After securing the contract, I began networking aggressively, meeting several notable figures in the business world, holding the exclusive rights to Qin Jillian's patents, and having just snatched a significant project from the Liu Corporation. I was treated with deference and warmth by everyone. This respect was something I had never experienced in my previous life. Even after winning 3 Best Actress awards, people only truly respect those who control the means of production. I mused, swirling the wine in my glass. Beside me, Sarah turned to look me up and down. "You've only been gone 4 years, but it feels like you've matured 10. Isn't that normal?" I replied with a chuckle. "At 18, you can get away with being reckless because you're young. But now that I've graduated college, if I want to bare my fangs, I need to at least pretend to be civilized first." With that, I raised my paddle at the auction, bidding 2 million. Emily, seated in the front row, snapped her head around to look at me. beside her. Jack's gaze followed, locking onto mine. For a brief moment, he seemed dazed. I noticed the faint scar on his forehead, and a wave of amusement washed over me. 2.6 million, Jack called out, snapping out of his trance and raising his paddle. I knew he was determined to win the diamond-studded bracelet as a birthday gift for Emily. Her birthday was just a few days away. Despite his efforts to gain some influence within the Jiang family business, Jack was still far from matching Nathan's dominance over the Liu Corporation. His only way to stay in Emily's good graces was through such extravagant gestures. I followed his bids leisurely, pushing the price higher and higher, watching him finally secure the bracelet for 6 million. Such deep feelings, I commented with a smirk. Jack held the bracelet silently, staring at me for a long moment before softly saying, "Rebecca." "Oh, stop," I interrupted, pretending to gag as I exaggeratedly stepped back. I gave him a once-over, then sneered. "At least you're better than your mistress of a mother. You've actually accomplished something, even if it's just barely. I wonder how you and my brother coordinate your schedules. Do you get Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays while he takes Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays? Or do you both share Sundays?" I said this loudly, ensuring that everyone in the room heard. As expected, after the auction ended, several business acquaintances approached me, asking for details. Feigning embarrassment, I waved them off. "It's nothing. My brother and that illegitimate son from the Jiang family both fell for the same little starlet. You know how it is. Everyone has their passionate moments. For true love, they're willing to endure anything." This set off waves of gossip, not just about Jack, Nathan, and Emily's entanglements but also about their relentless pursuit of love. I expanded my investments into the entertainment industry, backing promising actresses and snatching away several key roles that Emily had secured in her previous life. Nathan, naturally, couldn't tolerate his beloved White Lotus facing such humiliation in the public eye and retaliated swiftly. This was exactly what I had been waiting for. If he didn't make a move, how else could I expose his flaws? Suddenly, my name, alongside my company's, appeared on trending searches. Rebecca Liu, founder of Lanshin, accused of bullying in school. The headline sensationalized everything. Rebecca Liu's history of bullying Emily comes to light. Video of Rebecca smashing a piano at a school gala resurfaces. This time, however, the clip had been edited to remove the segment of me playing Symphony No. 5. They even tracked down classmates from senior year, who eagerly confirmed that I had bullied Emily. One particularly vindictive boy claimed on video, "Rebecca never liked Emily. She ripped up her test papers, poured ink in her desk, and led all the girls in class to ostracize her. Emily, being from a poor background, couldn't do anything to fight back and had to endure it all." The narrative painted me as an unrepentant villain, the rich heiress who tormented a defenseless girl until she was forced to leave school. It further claimed I'd escaped abroad to polish my reputation, and was now masquerading as the founder of a promising new company. My company's stock plummeted for days. Partners began calling, delicately inquiring about the situation. I knew that without a satisfying explanation, these partnerships would soon be terminated. "Just give it some time," I told them with a polite smile, twirling a pen in my hand. "You're all business people. You understand better than anyone that acting rashly without solid evidence is never a good move." Thankfully, Emily was far less patient than I anticipated. She hated me even more now than she had in the past, and seeing me thriving was unbearable for her. She seized the opportunity to appear on a live stream, using the controversy to her advantage. "I remember when the teacher asked me to read aloud in class," she began, her tone calm yet laced with vulnerability. "I'd gone to a rural elementary school where one teacher had to cover multiple subjects, including English, which wasn't taught well. My pronunciation was terrible. That day, when I read aloud, I realized for the first time how bad it was. Everyone laughed at me, including her." She paused, and the corners of her eyes glistened with tears. "I prepared for that school gala for so long. I'd studied piano for years, and I truly thought I had a chance. But..." The live stream chat exploded. It was hard to tell if the comments were genuine or part of a smear campaign orchestrated by Nathan. "Baby, you're amazing. Don't let them get to you. That rich girl is shameless. Does she even realize how pathetic she is? Am I the only one who noticed the contradiction? She said she went to a rural school with no proper English teacher and also studied piano for years? How does that add up? I couldn't help but laugh when I saw that last comment. It flashed briefly on the screen before being drowned out by the flood of sympathetic messages. The livestream hit over 5 million viewers that day. The next day, my father summoned me home. His face was stern as he barked orders. Merge Lanshin with the Lu Corporation. You've been back for only a few days and already caused such a mess. Turn over the company and publicly apologize before it's too late. I looked at him quietly. Dad, you've got this all wrong. It's not my company that's the issue. It's Nathan's girlfriend stirring up trouble. And who bullied her first? He snapped, slamming his hand on the table. If you don't start behaving, I'll pretend I never had a daughter. I smiled faintly. That's fine by me. After all, you didn't give birth to me. That was Mom. Soon after, the Lu Corporation and Jiang Industries announced a partnership aimed at undermining Lanshin. Together, they managed to poach several major projects from my company. My father publicly disowned me, claiming he didn't have a vicious daughter like me. Things escalated further when I was nearly attacked in the company parking lot by one of Emily's extremist fans wielding acid. Behind the scenes, Emily and my father conspired to use my high school diagnosis and erratic behavior to have me committed to a psychiatric hospital. The same dirty tricks, both in this life and the last. It was time for me to strike back. Nathan must have been feeling victorious, watching as I seemed to lose ground without putting up much of a fight. Right at this moment, Emily won her first Best Actress award. The timing was impeccable. It was also close to her birthday. Nathan threw her a grand celebration, complete with opulent decorations, a crowd of adoring fans, and a live stream broadcast. Emily appeared on stage in a white cocktail dress, her voice soft and gentle as she thanked her fans. The next segment was a playback of video messages recorded by her supporters. But as the screen behind her flickered to life, the footage shown was far from what anyone had expected. The video was grainy, shot from a hidden angle, showing the dressing room of a film set. Another actress stood before the mirror fixing her makeup, and Emily abruptly appeared, shoving the actress and grabbing her hand to slap herself across the face. Emily's chilling smile filled the screen as she sneered at the other actress. The role I wanted. Who gave you the right to compete for it? And now you expect me to play a supporting role for you? Do you even know who my boyfriend is? He's Nathan Lu, CEO of the Lu Corporation. When he sees the marks on my face, you'd better have your apology ready. The video ended with Emily leaning in toward the actress, her eyes flicking down to her chest with a smirk. Maybe you should think about what happens when footage of you bullying me gets out. Emily added in the clip. When you're blacklisted, how do you plan to make a living? Back in the ballroom, chaos erupted. Emily screamed, rushing to block the screen. But it was too late. Fans gasped and whispered furiously. In no time, her name and Nathan's shot to the top of trending searches. Emily, my boyfriend is Nathan Lu. Emily birthday livestream. Emily caught bullying again. Comments and view counts skyrocketed. Sarah, sitting beside me, gleefully typed away on her phone. Emily, do you get bullied everywhere you go? Or is the entire world out to wrong you? Her sarcastic comment rocketed to the top of the comments section. Others joined the fray. Wait, she slapped herself? That's dedication. She had to make her face swell. Or how else would people believe she was the victim? Forget Emily. Let's call her Sherlock Emily, always deducing ways to twist the truth. As the internet dissected the video, more revelations emerged. One sharp-eyed commenter noted, wasn't the lead role she won Best Actress for originally meant for another actress? The one who disappeared after a scandal broke. The commentary snowballed. Couldn't land roles through auditions, so she relies on framing and false accusations instead. Then, another video surfaced. Filmed at an overseas university, the footage showed a group of foreigners laughing as a Chinese student struggled through an English presentation. A wiry blonde guy mimicked the student's pronunciation with exaggerated disdain, calling out mockingly, "Do you know what this is? This is real English. Joker." The next moment, the camera caught me grabbing the blonde guy by the collar and punching him squarely in the face. In flawless English, I shot back, Laugh all you want. Were you laughing like this at your dad's funeral too? When the guy lunged at me, I struck him again, pinning him down, nudging his chin with the toe of my shoe. I smirked. Do you know what this is? This is real Chinese kung fu. Mutt. The video's uploader, an ordinary Chinese exchange student, captioned it. I grew up in the mountains, nearly thrown into the fire as a baby because of superstition. Unlike Emily, there were no pianos in my village and no wealthy benefactor giving me 10,000 yuan a month. I had to fight for everything. So I won't stand by while someone twists the truth to smear the people who once helped me. The comment section exploded. Wait, isn't this Rebecca Liu? The one Emily claimed bullied her in school. Finally, someone said it. Which village kid studies piano for 10 years? Her whole story doesn't add up. Wow, you're amazing, Rebecca. The internet erupted as people began to piece together the story. Emily's benefactor was none other than Nathan Liu, Rebecca's brother. Speculation ran wild. Was Nathan intentionally trying to frame his sister to fight for their inheritance? Then, more damning footage surfaced. A video from my 18th birthday party showed Emily staging a scene to secure financial support. The grainy footage revealed her climbing onto the rooftop, accusing another orphanage girl of pushing her off, and then jumping herself to make it appear as an attack. Nathan had been complicit all along, enabling Emily to manipulate her way to the top. The next clip exposed him hoarding incriminating evidence against his rivals, including attempted sabotage of Qin Zhilian's project. But the final blow was Jack. The footage revealed how he emotionally abused his own mother for 7 years, driving her to suicide just to gain a foothold in the Jiang family. It showed him bargaining his mother's life to his father in exchange for a chance to rise within the company. I funneled significant amounts of money to bring these revelations to light, connecting threads from both my past and present lives. With the evidence meticulously compiled, I launched it all into the public domain. Thanks to their prior publicity stunts, the saga already had the public's attention. As soon as the revelations surfaced, exposing illegal activities, the situation exploded. Outraged viewers flooded law enforcement with reports. With the scale of the uproar, there was no way to suppress it. Those who tried to manipulate public opinion ultimately fell victim to it. Are you satisfied with this ending? I thought to myself as I watched the chaos unfold. The day my father and Nathan were taken into police custody, my mother filed for divorce. Nathan, incredulous, yelled at her. Mom, aren't I your son too? How could you take her side? My mother sighed, sitting down calmly with a cup of tea. Your father favored you. I favor your sister. Isn't balance fair? Following their arrests, the Liu and Jiang Corporation's projects, stolen from Lanshan, were implicated in economic crimes. With their downfall, I took over the battered remains of the Liu Corporation and merged it with Lanshan. Soon after, I arranged a meeting with October Jiang, Jack's older half-sister. She was the product of a business marriage and had been an enigma in my childhood. I used to resent her, blaming her for disrupting my family. But as I grew older, I realized it was my father's infidelity that created Jack and the chaos that followed. Sipping her coffee, Tober said, dying at the hands of his own son was poetic justice for their father. It's karma, isn't it? We had struck a deal a year ago. I would help her oust Jack and consolidate her control over the Jiang family's assets. In return, she would lend her resources to assist me, including fueling the public uproar that ultimately exposed Emily, Nathan, and Jack. I'm curious, she said, tilting her head. How did you figure out Jack was involved in his mother's death? I smiled but didn't answer. After all, he had used the same tactics on me in my past life. Before their sentencing, I made a point to visit my old acquaintances in prison. Nathan was the first. He glared at me with venom in his eyes. Don't look at me like that, brother, I said with a smirk. I know what you're thinking. You're wondering how I managed all of this after being cast out like a stray dog. I've already been through that once. Did you really think I spent my years abroad indulging in luxury? I leaned in closer. The most grueling period of my life had me sleeping in fragmented intervals, juggling school and work, and reaching out to build connections. All the while, I pieced together every shred of evidence from our past lives. Your methods were always so thorough, leaving no room for loose ends. That's why I knew this wasn't your first time. Villains don't trip up in front of me for the first time. The darkness you brought into the world has always existed, far beyond what I've seen. But this time, I've dragged it all into the light. Nathan's eyes burned with hatred as I stood, smoothing my coat. Our father was right. I added. I'm nothing like him. He raised you to be a tyrant, someone who'd stop at nothing to achieve your goals, even if it meant breaking the law. Lucky for me, I'm not like you either. I turned to leave, hearing the clink of his shackles as he lunged forward, restrained by the guards. Rebecca, he bellowed, his voice echoing in the cold, gray prison walls. But I didn't look back. The second person I visited was Emily. Her hair was disheveled, her gaze hollow, and yet, even through the glass, her eyes burned with hatred so intense it felt like she wanted to devour me. She could no longer play the sweet, innocent act. Her voice cracked as she screamed hysterically. If you had all this evidence from the beginning, why didn't you release it earlier? Were you just playing with me for fun? Of course it was fun, I replied, standing slowly. What's the point otherwise? Watching you act like you'd already won made it all the more entertaining. I leaned closer, smirking. I could have exposed everything earlier, sure, but that wouldn't have been enough. I wanted you to think you'd achieved victory, that you had everything, only to see it all reduced to ashes at the last moment. That's what I went through in my past life. Now, it's your turn. The last person I visited was Jack. Truthfully, I hadn't planned to see him at all. My battles had always been with Emily, while Nathan was tied to me by blood. Jack, however, was a different story. Once my love for him faded into oblivion, there was nothing left between us. But the police informed me that Jack had requested to see me. Separated by the cold glass, we sat across from one another. He stared at me in silence, his expression inscrutable. I shifted in my seat, growing impatient. Finally, I stood. If you've got nothing to say, I'm leaving. It wasn't supposed to be like this, he said quietly, breaking the silence. The Liu family should have been mine. We should have been engaged. I froze mid-step and turned to face him. He looked at me with a strange glimmer in his dark eyes, a flicker of something I couldn't place. For a brief moment, as I stared at his face, marred by the faint scar on his forehead, I felt a jarring sense of déjà vu. It was as if I were looking at the Jack from my past life. The thought quickly passed, replaced by a bitter sense of irony. Just engaged. I scoffed. Why not mention what came after? You used me to gain control of the Liu family, and then conspired with Nathan to kill me. Jack's voice cracked as he replied. But I regretted it. Later. Much later. You didn't know. But I wished. So much. That you could know. I laughed. Bitterly and coldly. Too late. Of course I didn't know. I was already dead. And even if I had known. So what? What's your regret worth to me? I leaned against the glass, looking him dead in the eye. This time, I'm the one who won. The one going to hell is you, Jack. This is exactly what you deserve. That year, winter arrived unusually early. By the time I left the prison, the sky had already turned dark. Teen Jillian called me on the drive home, letting me know she'd be heading abroad after the new year to start her next big research project. I wished her the best and told her to keep me updated. After hanging up, I checked my messages. Sarah had texted, saying she was already seated at the hot pot restaurant and telling me to hurry over and settle the bill. I laughed and replied with a simple, "On my way." Outside the car window, a crescent moon hung high in the sky, casting a pale glow over the quiet city of Nangmo. As this long night stretched on, I knew that eventually, the moon would set, and when it did, the sun would rise again. After failing my college entrance exam, I married Andrew and dedicated myself to managing his household for 40 years. Yet, when he died, I wasn't allowed to attend his funeral. Half of his estate went to his children, and the other half to his perfect love, Emily. All he left me was a sentence, and the memory of my stolen college acceptance letter. It turned out that I hadn't failed my exam after all. Andrew had taken my acceptance letter to curry favor with Emily. For 40 years, I repaid a debt I didn't owe. In a fit of rage, I stormed his funeral and exposed the injustice of those decades. My children, instead of understanding, turned against me. Dad and Emily were meant to be together. You ruined their happiness. If you keep making a scene, don't blame us for abandoning you in the countryside to fend for yourself. I was so enraged that I died on the spot. But when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the year of my college entrance exam. My acceptance letter was still en route, and my life was yet to unfold. The familiar scolding voice jolted me out of my daze. Anna, we're about to get married, and you're still causing trouble. I had gone back 40 years, to a time before I married Andrew, before he stole my letter. Everything was still within my grasp. Andrew stood before me, rambling. It's just a bowl of meat. Will you die without it? I've told you. I only see Emily as a sister. Must you twist things like this? If you keep this up, maybe we shouldn't get married after all. Suppressing the wave of emotions surging within me, I replied coldly, then let's not. My simple response left Andrew stunned. Anna, what are you saying? I said, let's not get married. Snatching the bowl of meat from his hands, I glared at him and restrained the urge to lash out. A man who takes his fiancée's food to please someone else? What a coward. There was no way I'd marry him now. As I turned to leave, Andrew grabbed me in a panic. Anna, what do you mean by this? If you're not marrying me, who will you marry? Do you think you're Emily? Someone smart enough to get into college? Let me tell you, you'll regret this and come begging me to take you back. His condescension pushed me over the edge. I slapped him hard across the face and said with icy resolve, Andrew, let me make this clear. Anna, would never marry a man who can't keep his boundaries straight. Before he could react, I walked away, clutching that bowl of meat. The stinging pain on my palm served as a constant reminder that this was real. I had truly been reborn. In my past life, my grandfather had pressured my parents to arrange my marriage to Andrew if I didn't get into college. His reasoning? To repay a life-saving favor owed to Andrew's grandfather. Back then, my parents' hopes and my relentless studying were crushed by the false news that I'd failed the exam. Heartbroken, I drifted into a 40-year marriage with Andrew. I cared for his ailing parents, raised his siblings, and toiled endlessly to keep his household running, all while believing my sacrifices had meaning. It wasn't until after his death that the truth came out. I wasn't even allowed to mourn him, and he gave his fortune to others. He admitted that marrying me was only his way of atoning for stealing my acceptance letter. Even in death, he claimed he owed me nothing. I should have had a career and a life of my own, but he had destroyed it all. 40 years of labor left me sick and broken, and yet he had the audacity to say I'd lived a life of comfort. Remembering it all, I felt an overwhelming urge to crush every part of Andrew's being. I rushed to the village post station to check if my acceptance letter had arrived. Uncle Jack waved his fan and said, "Why is everyone so eager about these letters? Don't worry, Anna, if yours arrives, I'll let you know." "What do you mean by everyone? Who else asked about it?" I pressed, sensing something was off. Uncle Jack gave me a puzzled look. "Who else?" "Andrew and Brian. Of course, Brian's in the same class as you. Isn't he? Andrew said he's waiting to see if you get in. If you don't, he plans to submit the marriage application right away." "Oh, and Brian. That boy's got his heart set on you. He's a good kid. You know." I couldn't help but tighten my grip. Andrew always put on a good show in front of others, making everyone believe he was deeply devoted to me. In my previous life, no one could have imagined that Andrew was capable of stealing my college acceptance letter and giving it to Emily. Thinking about it, I lowered my head, and tears welled up in my eyes. "Uncle Jack, can I trouble you with something? From now on, please don't let Andrew take anything of mine. You wouldn't believe it. Today, he insisted on taking the meat my mom made for me to give to Emily. He said she's frail and needs the nourishment, and that someone like me, a rural girl, was wasting it because I couldn't appreciate good things." Uncle Jack slammed his fan onto the table, his face filled with indignation. "What nonsense is this? What does Andrew think he's saying? So what if you're from the countryside? Hard-working people are the backbone of this world. That's your meat. Why should he give it to someone else? No, I'll go have a good talk with his mother about this." I quickly grabbed Uncle Jack's arm and feigned a pitiful expression. "That's not necessary. Andrew's health isn't great. If he gets upset and something happens, It'll be on me. But you see, he's bold enough to take things in the open, and who knows how much he's secretly given away behind my back. That's why I'm asking for your help. From now on, if anything comes addressed to me, please don't let anyone else take it. Just think of this bowl of meat as a token of my gratitude." Uncle Jack hesitated, wanting to refuse, but after my repeated insistence, he finally relented. With this matter resolved, I returned home with the now empty bowl. As soon as I walked through the door, my parents noticed the bowl and were surprised. "Anna, did you finish it all so quickly?" I placed the bowl on the table and shook my head. "No, I gave it to Uncle Jack." My mother was about to say something when an angry voice cut through the air. "Anna, what's the meaning of this? Why did you give that meat to Uncle Jack?" I turned around and looked at Andrew with disdain. "Oh, do I need your permission to do something with what's mine?" My mom tugged at my arm, trying to mediate. "Anna, Andrew has a point. That meat was for you to share with him. Why would you give it away?" I clenched my fists tightly but managed a cold smile. "Andrew, why don't you tell them the whole truth? You wanted to take my meat to give to Emily, claiming we rural folks would waste it. You said she needed it to recover her health. Why should our family's things be used for your flattery?" Andrew panicked and immediately denied it. "You're talking nonsense." I took a step closer and shot back. "If I'm lying, may lightning strike me where I stand. Why, Andrew, you're bold enough to say these things to me, but you don't have the guts to admit them in front of my parents." I continued coldly. "Andrew, your grandfather saved my grandfather's life, and I won't deny that. But over the years, my family has done plenty for yours. We've given money when you needed it, grain when you were short. My dad even lost the use of one hand helping your father. Don't you think we've repaid that debt? Or are you planning to make my family pay for the next 18 generations?" My words made my parents' faces darken. They had only agreed to this marriage because my grandfather, on his deathbed, had pressured them into it, claiming it was their duty to repay the Gu family's kindness. They knew full well that this arrangement wasn't for my happiness, but to continue supporting Andrew's family. Still, they had only agreed because Andrew seemed decent enough and out of respect for my grandfather's dying wish. If they had known how I would be treated, they never would have allowed it. Seeing my parents' expressions, Andrew hurriedly tried to defend himself. "Anna, stop spouting nonsense. There's nothing between me and Emily. And don't get too smug. If you fail your exams, you'll still have to marry me. This isn't over." With that, he stormed out in anger. After being cursed like that, my father's expression grew even grimmer. "Anna, if you truly don't want to marry him, I'll do whatever it takes to protect you, even if it costs me my life." Tears welled up in my mother's eyes as she hugged me tightly. "My poor girl. How did it come to this? How could they treat you like this?" I felt the warmth of my mother's embrace, but my heart was filled with a bitter sadness. Though my father's words were comforting, the reality in the village was that family honor meant everything. With Grandpa gone but Grandma still alive, her strict adherence to his wishes meant she might resort to dramatic measures, even threatening to take her own life if I refused the arranged marriage. The gossip alone could destroy my parents' reputation, and I couldn't bear to see them suffer like that. I wiped my tears and reassured them. "It's okay. As long as I get into college, the village won't have anything to say." My mother paused, startled by my resolve, then suddenly realized something. "So, you gave the meat to Uncle Jack to prevent Andrew from meddling, didn't you? With something this big, who knows what tricks he might pull?" My father stood up, gently ruffling my hair. "Anna, leave this matter to me. I believe in you. You'll get into college, and I won't let anyone take what's rightfully yours." I nodded firmly, feeling reassured by his support. Over the next few days, my parents and I took turns visiting the post station to watch for the arrival of my acceptance letter. We didn't want to give Andrew any opportunity to interfere. Meanwhile, Andrew and Emily were facing difficulties of their own. Emily, as part of a government-mandated rural program, had struck up a relationship with Andrew as soon as she arrived. She avoided most of the physically demanding tasks, which Andrew, under the guise of propriety, couldn't do himself. Instead, he always pushed those tasks onto me. In the past, I naively believed his excuses, that he was just helping Emily care for her younger siblings. I worked tirelessly, thinking I was contributing to something meaningful. But now, fully aware of the truth, I refused to do any more of their work. Without my labor, Emily lasted only a few days before complaining of exhaustion. Left with no choice, Andrew had to step in himself. However, rumors began spreading that Emily was only in the village temporarily and would soon return to her studies. This worried Andrew, who eventually came to find me. "Anna, I know I went too far before," he began, feigning sincerity, "but there's really nothing between me and Emily. She'll be leaving for college soon. What could possibly happen? I only wanted her to help teach your younger siblings, Evan and Luke. You'll be their sister-in-law one day. Can't you make a little effort for them?" Annoyed, I pushed him away and said coldly, "Don't try to cozy up to me. I'd rather marry a pig or a dog than marry you." Infuriated, Andrew shouted, "Anna, you're such a vulgar woman. How could someone like you possibly get into college? Just wait. You'll see." I ignored him and hurried off in another direction. My mind was focused on something far more important. When I reached the tree, I let out a sigh of relief. I had arrived just in time. In my previous life, while working in this area, I had stumbled upon an unconscious middle-aged man. Thinking it was a small act of kindness, I had saved him and shared my name when he asked. I hadn't thought much of it afterward. Only later did I learn that this man was Stephen Parker, a high-ranking officer in the military. Andrew, upon discovering that I had saved Stephen, shamelessly used that act of kindness to advance his career, climbing all the way to a senior position. Despite this, he spent years belittling me, claiming I was useless and had no worth compared to the influential wives of others. He conveniently concealed the fact that my actions had set the foundation for his success. This time, I wouldn't let Andrew benefit from Stephen's gratitude. I knelt down and used the same first aid measures I had employed in my previous life. After a few moments, Stephen slowly regained consciousness. "Thank you, young lady, for saving me. May I know your name?" Caught off guard by his formal tone, I quickly composed myself and smiled. "Anna Lewis. It was nothing, really. I need to get back to work now." Before Stephen could ask further questions, I waved and walked away. I had no intention of using Stephen's influence for my own gain. From what I knew of him, he was a man of integrity and a staunch protector of justice. Someone like him didn't deserve to die here. My only hope was that he wouldn't allow Andrew to manipulate him in this lifetime. Having resolved this matter, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. In the days that followed, Andrew became surprisingly well behaved, and even Emily stopped flaunting her connection to him in front of me. However, as time passed, my acceptance letter still didn't arrive. Eventually, even Uncle Jack, seeing my repeated visits, couldn't help but express concern. "Anna, maybe you didn't get in after all." I immediately knew something was wrong and quickly asked, "Uncle Jack, do you know if Brian passed the exam?" Uncle Jack shook his head and said, "I don't think so, but someone mentioned seeing Brian packing up his things. Word is, even though he didn't pass, his family is taking him back to the city." Hearing this, a sharp suspicion hit me. In my past life, Andrew had stolen my acceptance letter to give to Emily because her family had refused to help her return to the city unless she got into college. How could that have changed now? Suddenly, another thought struck me. I turned back to Uncle Jack. Did the mail carrier just leave? When he nodded, I wasted no time, running straight toward the village entrance. There, I managed to stop the mail carrier just as he was about to leave. "Excuse me," I panted. "Do you have a package for Anna Lewis?" The mail carrier furrowed his brows, thinking for a moment, and then said, "Wasn't it already picked up? Someone claimed to be Anna's fiancé. I even asked around, and the villagers confirmed it." That moment, anger surged through me like a tidal wave. My chest felt tight, and I could barely breathe. Memories from my past life came flooding back, one after another, overwhelming me. Without another word, I sprinted toward Andrew's house. On the way, I passed several villagers, but I didn't stop to greet anyone. I burst into Andrew's home and immediately spotted him standing close to Emily, their behavior undeniably intimate. Without hesitation, I slapped him hard across the face. "Andrew, Where's my college acceptance letter? Andrew's face turned red from the slap. He was clearly caught off guard, as were the villagers who had followed me to see what was happening. What nonsense are you spouting, Anna? Andrew tried to maintain his composure, raising his voice for the crowd. What acceptance letter? You must have gone crazy from failing the exam. Looking at his shameless face, I couldn't hold back my fury any longer. You're the one who's crazy. No wonder Uncle Jack never received my letter. You took it from the mail carrier and even had the nerve to tell people you're my fiancé. You disgust me. We're not even married. And you have the audacity to call yourself my fiancé. The crowd murmured in surprise. One villager finally spoke up. Come to think of it, Andrew did pick up a package for Anna from the mail carrier. But didn't he give it to her? Could it be that he didn't? Sensing the crowd's doubt, Emily quickly stepped forward with an envelope in hand. It's this one, she said nervously. We've just been so busy that we forgot to give it to her. I snatched the envelope out of her hands and tore it open, only to find a blank sheet of paper inside. Andrew, realizing what had happened, smirked and said mockingly, Why do you think I didn't give it to you? It's just a blank sheet of paper. What's so special about that? Fuming, I gripped the paper tightly and glared at him. Before I could respond, Andrew's younger siblings, Evan and Luke, barged in and shoved me aside. Stop making baseless accusations. Evan snapped. It's just a blank piece of paper. Do you have any proof that our brother took your acceptance letter? The crowd began murmuring again. Some villagers nodded, saying, Yeah, Evan and Luke are such honest kids. Anna, maybe you're misunderstanding something. Even my parents, who had just arrived, hesitated. My mother gently tried to lead me away, whispering, Anna, maybe we should go. This might really just be a misunderstanding. Seeing this, Andrew grew bolder and sneered at me. Anna, why are you making such a big fuss? Do you hate me that much? What's wrong with you? You're just a sparrow trying to become a phoenix. Let me tell you, sparrows will always be sparrows. You might as well accept your fate and marry me. I'll submit the marriage application tomorrow. Before I could retort, a commanding voice cut through the crowd. I think the person who needs to explain themselves is you, Andrew. The crowd turned toward the source of the voice, and their expressions changed instantly. A dignified middle-aged man was walking toward us, his presence radiating authority. It was Stephen Parker. Little lady, we meet again, he said, his gaze landing on me. I stared at him, stunned. I hadn't expected him to show up here, and certainly not at this moment. Andrew, seizing what he thought was an opportunity, pointed at me and yelled, So that's it. Anna, now I understand why you don't want to marry me. You've been sneaking around with this man. He's old enough to be your father. How shameless can you be? I snapped, barely restraining myself. Around us, the villagers started murmuring. Who is that man? Anyway, maybe they're right. Why would Anna suddenly not want to marry Andrew? Could it be because she's taken a liking to this older guy? Who would have thought? She always seemed so obedient. I had reached my limit. Just as I was about to retaliate, Andrew grabbed my wrist and smirked. Angry because I hit the nail on the head? Anna, don't forget it was my grandfather who saved yours. This marriage was arranged long ago. Backing out now? Impossible. And that acceptance letter you keep rambling about? It's a fantasy. Go on. Have your old man here conjure one up for you if he's so capable. Before I could respond, another voice rang out, sharp and commanding. Shut up. Andrew, do you even know who's standing in front of you? Andrew's face paled as he turned toward the source of the voice. Captain Lee, he stammered. What are you doing here? Lee Minjia's expression was a mix of disappointment and anger. What am I doing here? The better question is, what on earth have you done? This young woman saved Commander Parker's life, and he came here personally to thank her. And you? You slander her the moment he arrives. You've brought disgrace upon all of us who've served with you. Andrew's face turned ashen. He glanced nervously at Stephen Parker, who stood stoically nearby, his gaze cold and unyielding. Commander Parker, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was you. Stephen didn't give him a chance to finish. He raised a hand, signaling for silence, and turned to me. His tone softened. Young lady, Are you certain it was Andrew who took your acceptance letter? I nodded firmly. Yes, I'm certain. Given how he's been entangled with Emily these past few days, I have every reason to believe he stole my letter and gave it to her. Emily, who had been standing to the side, immediately panicked. Anna, what nonsense are you talking about? I earned my acceptance letter through my own efforts. Are you trying to use Commander Parker to snatch it from me? Andrew quickly interjected, scolding her. Emily, don't say such things. Commander Parker isn't that kind of person. He turned to me with a pleading look in his eyes. Anna, Emily isn't lying. That letter is hers. I know you don't want to marry me, but you can't make things up like this just to get out of it. I remained unmoved, my voice icy. If it's really hers, then show us the acceptance letter. Let's check whose name is on it. Or are you afraid to prove it because you're guilty? The villagers, who had been whispering among themselves, nodded in agreement. That's right. If it's hers, just show the name on the letter. And wasn't it Andrew who's always sneaking Anna's things to give to Emily? If he went as far as intercepting her acceptance letter, that's a whole other level of wrongdoing. Seeing the growing suspicion in the crowd, Lee Minjia added, Andrew, the young lady has a point. If you're so certain, just bring out the letter and show us the name. It'll clear everything up. Emily hesitated, her face pale. Then she straightened her neck and declared, the acceptance letter isn't with me. My expression darkened as I asked coldly, what do you mean it's not with you? Where is it? Emily's eyes darted around before she replied, why would I keep it here? This isn't my home. Of course, it was sent to my family's address. My parents told me I was accepted. What? Do you expect me to bring you to my house to prove it? She sneered. If you don't believe me, feel free to search my room. See if you can find the letter. Andrew and Emily both looked smug, as if they'd gained the upper hand. The villagers glanced at me, unsure what to believe. But I wasn't about to back down. My gut told me they were lying, and I was determined to expose the truth. I immediately realized that Andrew and Emily had already planned their strategy. Commander Parker, being a military man, wouldn't initiate a search of someone's personal belongings without evidence. Even if he did, they had undoubtedly hidden the letter by now. After a long silence, Commander Parker's expression turned stern. Andrew, do you really think whether someone passed or failed can only be determined by an acceptance letter? I was momentarily stunned but quickly turned to him with hope. Commander Parker, do you have a way to prove it? He stepped aside, revealing someone who had been standing behind him, a familiar figure. It was Principal Zhang. I was overjoyed but momentarily at a loss for words. Principal Zhang, weren't you supposed to return to the city? What brings you here now? Principal Zhang patted my head kindly and said with a sigh, I was planning to go back, but Commander Parker came to me and asked about your situation. So, here I am. He turned toward Emily, his expression shifting to one of stern authority. Emily, must I spell it out for you? The student who was accepted to college is Anna Lewis. Not you. The school keeps detailed records. Are you seriously thinking of enrolling under Anna's name? Andrew's face turned ashen at the revelation. He couldn't believe the coincidence. That I had saved Commander Parker, leading to this moment where their lies were exposed one by one. Emily, too, was trembling with fear. All traces of her earlier arrogance gone. She clutched Principal Zhang's hand desperately, her voice trembling. Principal, the acceptance letter is mine. If it's not, I won't be able to go back to the city. I can't stay in this countryside. Please, let me have this chance. Principal Zhang pulled his hand away coldly. That's no excuse for taking Anna's acceptance letter. Return it immediately. Commander Parker turned to Andrew, his voice laced with authority. The truth is clear. Andrew, are you still going to shield her? Andrew panicked. His promising performance in the military had earned him Captain Lee's favor, and risking his career for Emily was unthinkable. Emily, give the acceptance letter back to Anna. If we have to, we'll just take the exams again next year. Andrew's voice was desperate. His eyes filled with urgency as he looked at Emily, practically begging her to comply. Emily stared at him in disbelief and shoved him away. Take the exams again? Are you going to pay for my tuition? Now that you've ruined your relationship with Anna, Where will you get the money? There's always a way to figure out the money, Andrew said, his voice trembling with anxiety. But if you don't return that letter now, you'll ruin everything for both of us. Emily, spoiled by Andrew's indulgence, exploded in anger at his tone. She reached into her blouse, pulling out the letter that had been hidden against her chest. I rushed forward to snatch it, but Emily acted faster. With a furious scream, she tore the letter to pieces. The fragments fluttered to the ground like scattered petals. Unable to contain my rage, I slapped her hard across the face. Emily, have you lost your mind? The crowd was stunned into silence. No one had expected that Emily had been hiding the letter on her. In this era, where personal integrity was held in the highest regard, who would dare to search her body? Emily clutched her reddened cheek. Her eyes filled with a hatred so deep it was chilling. Yes, I've lost my mind. If I can't have it, then no one can. Anna Lewis, you think you're going to college? Her words hung in the air, sharp and venomous. The villagers stared in shock, murmurs growing louder as they tried to process what had just happened. Meanwhile, I stood frozen, looking at the shredded remains of my future scattered on the ground. Seeing the fragments of my acceptance letter scattered across the ground, I felt as though my heart was bleeding. The pain was sharp and unbearable. My mother came to my side, supporting me with tears in her eyes. Just as I was about to bend down to pick up the pieces, Principal Zhang gently stopped me. Don't worry, Anna, he said firmly. I looked up at him, stunned, as he nodded toward Commander Parker. Commander Parker spoke, his tone calm but reassuring. When I first heard you hadn't received your acceptance letter, I immediately had someone contact Huaqing University to issue a new one for you. I personally instructed them to ensure it would be delivered directly to you and no one else. Young lady, you earned your place at that university. It's yours, and you will go. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I bowed deeply to him several times in gratitude. Thank you, Commander Parker. Thank you so much. My parents, overwhelmed with joy, also expressed their heartfelt thanks to him and Principal Zhang. The villagers, seeing the resolution, began to relax and offered their congratulations. That's wonderful. Anna can go to college. Our village finally has a college student. And who says no golden phoenixes can come from our village? Anna is proof that they can. In stark contrast to the celebratory atmosphere, Andrew and Emily's faces turned deathly pale. Their plan to steal my future had not only failed, but they had also destroyed their own reputations and prospects in the process. The villagers chose to ignore them completely. My parents, filled with gratitude, insisted on inviting Commander Parker and the others to our house for a meal. Despite their initial reluctance, they couldn't refuse my parents' warm hospitality. Soon, the group left for our home, leaving Andrew and Emily standing there, seething in humiliation. Once at home, my parents bought some meat and brought out their treasured wine, which had been saved for special occasions. They insisted on sharing a few drinks with Commander Parker and Principal Zhang. After the meal, my father, his eyes slightly reddened, looked at me and sighed. My daughter, you finally made it through. Commander Parker, you don't know how she's always said she wanted to do something great, to contribute to the country. She studied so hard, year after year. But that marriage agreement almost ruined everything. As he spoke, tears streamed down his face. I looked at him, exasperated but touched, and said, Dad, why bring this up now? It's all in the past. The important thing is that I've gotten into college and won't have to marry Andrew. Better days are ahead for us. Commander Parker patted my father on the shoulder and smiled appreciatively at me. Anna is right. Good things come to those who endure hardship. She has a bright future ahead of her. Coincidentally, I know some people at Huaqing University. I'll ask them to look after Anna while she's there. You don't have to worry. Hearing this, my parents finally relaxed. After the meal, Commander Parker gave me his phone number and told me to contact him if I ever needed help. As my parents busied themselves with preparations for my upcoming college journey, Andrew made one last desperate attempt. He came to me, putting on a pitiful expression. Anna, after you graduate from college, let's get married. Okay. His audacity drained the last shred of patience I had for him. Andrew, how shameless can you be? You told me yourself that if I managed to get into college, the marriage agreement would be void. Didn't you also say I was too stupid to get in, and that you wouldn't marry me even if I wanted to? Well, guess what? I don't want you. I never did. With that, I turned and ignored him completely. Desperate, Andrew went to my grandmother, hoping to use my grandfather's dying wish to pressure her into forcing the marriage. But when she heard about how he had stolen my acceptance letter, she grabbed a broom and chased him out of the house. You little scoundrel! Stealing my granddaughter's acceptance letter and still daring to talk about marriage? Get out! Her actions only solidified Andrew's disgrace in the village. The Gu family's reputation was ruined, and from then on, anytime any of them appeared in public, they were met with disdain and ridicule. The villagers couldn't help but gather around, pointing and whispering about the Gu family. Andrew's mother, already frail, became gravely ill due to the stress and humiliation. Andrew's younger siblings, Evan and Luke, who had once relied on their charm to garner goodwill, now found themselves shunned by the same villagers who had believed their lies. The children of the village even gave them the nickname the Liars, a label that left the two distraught and resentful toward Andrew and Emily. Previously, my family had supported the Gu family, which allowed Andrew to save most of his monthly stipend to give to Emily. But after everything that had happened, my parents refused to help them anymore. Andrew was left alone to bear the financial burden of his mother's medical expenses and his siblings' education and clothing. When he asked Emily to contribute some money, she flatly refused. Their arguments grew increasingly frequent and heated, nearly escalating to the point of involving the village leader. My mother, hearing about their downfall, couldn't hide her satisfaction as she recounted the events to me. I hugged her and gently said, "Mom, don't waste your energy thinking about them. Whatever happens to them is no longer our concern. Better days are ahead for us." I wanted to let the matter rest, but some people refused to let go. One evening, as I was heading home after finishing my work, I suddenly felt lightheaded. My steps faltered, and an inexplicable heat spread through my body. Instinctively, I leaned against a tree for support, only to see Andrew appear before me. "It's you," I said, realization dawning on me immediately. "You drugged me." Andrew's eyes were filled with malice. "You're right, Anna," he sneered. "You can only blame yourself for being so disobedient. Couldn't you have just married me? Why did you have to insist on going to college and humiliating me in front of Commander Parker? Do you have any idea that I was on the verge of a promotion before you ruined everything?" I gritted my teeth, struggling to stay upright, and retorted, "Don't think I don't know your real motive. You're hoping my parents will continue supporting your miserable family if I marry you. Tell me, how much of your monthly stipend do you actually spend on your family?" Andrew let out a cold laugh. "So what? Your grandfather's dying wish was that you'd marry me. Your father's injured hand and our engagement were all part of your family's debt to us. If anything, your whole family owes us. We could have had a perfectly fine marriage if you hadn't forced my hand." I turned and tried to run, but Emily suddenly appeared, shoving me to the ground. "Why are you wasting your breath on her?" she said to Andrew. "Just get it over with already." I glared at Emily, my voice trembling with anger. "Emily, why are you helping Andrew? You've ruined my life. Do you think I'll let you get away with it?" Emily crouched down beside me, her expression twisted with malice. "Anna, just accept your fate and stay here. Get married and stop dreaming about a better future." I grabbed at the grass beneath me, locking eyes with Andrew. "If you do this, I'll tell Commander Parker. Don't think for a second you'll keep your position in the military." Emily laughed mockingly and leaned in to pat my face condescendingly. "Do you really think we didn't plan for that? Andrew's had the same drug as you. When people find out, we'll just say it was an accident. Two kids playing around and accidentally drinking drugged water. Who's going to believe your side of the story then? The only thing people will see is you compromising your reputation, alone with a man. If you don't marry, you can look forward to being thrown into the village's punishment barrel for disgracing your family." The fire raging in my body felt like it was burning through every drop of water in my veins, boiling my blood. Desperate to stay lucid, I bit down hard on my lip, the sharp pain helping me cling to my sanity. Andrew, however, was already losing control. His eyes clouded with a mix of confusion and unrestrained lust. Emily sat back on her heels, smirking at me triumphantly. Don't bother hoping anyone will come to save you, Anna. She gloated. I made sure everyone was sent away. Bite your lip until it bleeds. Scream until your voice goes hoarse. It won't change anything. You'll spend the rest of your life stuck here. Emily's crazed laughter echoed in my ears, and for a moment, it reminded me of her smugness at Andrew's funeral in my previous life. She looked youthful, elegant, and full of life, so different from my worn-down, near-insane self after 40 years of marriage to Andrew. I vividly remembered how she had approached me then, her eyes gleaming with triumph as she taunted me. Anna, she had said, what did 40 years of marriage to Andrew get you? He only married you to have a live-in maid who could care for his parents, raise his siblings, and manage his household. Me? I've lived a life of comfort and ease. You, on the other hand, were born to serve others, while I was meant to be cherished. Honestly, I should thank you for letting me and Andrew enjoy so many good years together. I had trembled with rage, raising my hand to slap her, but my own children pushed me to the ground. Mom, Dad and Emily were meant to be. Why can't you accept that? My daughter had sneered. Mom, have you looked at yourself in the mirror? You're a disgrace. You don't deserve to call yourself my mother. They stood with Emily, the person who had destroyed my life, their words stabbing into the most vulnerable parts of my heart. I had died of sheer anger and heartbreak that day, my final moments haunted by their disdain as they grumbled about how my death was an inconvenience. But in this life, I had no intention of letting that tragedy repeat itself. I turned my head to look at Andrew, whose eyes were now filled with an uncontrollable frenzy as he stumbled toward me. My gaze shifted to the rock lying near Emily's feet. A surge of strength coursed through my body, fueled by desperation and determination. Just as Andrew reached for me, I grabbed the rock and swung it with all my might, striking Emily's head. She collapsed to the ground, dazed, summoning every ounce of willpower. I scrambled to my feet. Andrew, now completely unhinged, turned his attention to Emily. He lunged at her, clawing at her clothes. Emily, momentarily stunned by the blow, quickly regained her senses and clutched at her clothing. Andrew, look at me, she screamed. I'm not Anna. Let me go. First, she tried to reason with him, but the effects of the drug had stripped Andrew of all logic. Their earlier scheme to use a high dose for their performance had backfired, leaving him uncontrollable. His military training gave him the strength to overpower her easily. Emily's panic escalated, and she began crying and screaming for help. Anna, please save me, she begged, tears streaming down her face. I was wrong. I'll never hurt you again. Please. I'm begging you. I picked up the rock once more but didn't throw it this time. Instead, I let it drop to the ground. Hope flashed across Emily's face as she scrambled toward the rock, likely intending to knock Andrew unconscious. But just as her fingers grazed it, Andrew yanked her back and tore her clothes. I turned away, blocking out the sound of her screams and curses as I walked step by step toward the other side of the field. When I finally reached home, my strength gave out. I plunged myself into the water barrel, trying to cool the fire raging inside me. The water felt like a temporary reprieve, quelling the unbearable heat and pain. As my vision blurred, I saw my mother rushing toward me, dropping her tools in alarm. Don't tell anyone, I murmured before losing consciousness. When I came to, I was lying in bed, with my parents sitting beside me, their faces full of worry. My mother clutched my hand tightly, relief washing over her as she said, "You're awake. Thank goodness." My father sighed deeply, his eyes red from worry. You scared us, Anna, but it's okay now. You're okay. I forced a weak smile and said to my parents, I'm sorry for worrying you. My mom shook her head, gently stroking my hair. It's Andrew and Emily again, isn't it? Before I could respond, my dad spoke up. Andrew and Emily were caught in the woods, messing around. From what I heard, they couldn't even be separated when people found them. Wasn't that area near the worksite where you've been going? I nodded, then recounted everything that had happened to my parents. When I finished, my mom pulled me into her arms, her voice trembling with anger. Those two animals just won't leave our Anna alone. My dad looked at me with concern. Anna, they might try to blame you for this. Maybe it's better if you go stay with your grandmother for a while. Your mom and I can handle things here. I shook my head firmly. There's no escaping this. If I leave now, it'll only confirm their lies. As if on cue, we heard loud voices outside the house. Anna Lewis, get out here. I quickly dressed and went to the door with my parents. Outside, I saw Andrew and Emily flanked by Andrew's parents, who rarely showed up in public, along with a crowd of curious villagers eager to watch the drama unfold. The moment she saw me, Andrew's mother began shouting insults. Anna, you little tramp. How dare you set up my son? My mom, already furious, charged forward. She grabbed Andrew's mother by the hair and slapped her hard across the face twice. Who are you calling filthy? Your son's mess has nothing to do with my daughter. Say one more word, and I'll tear that mouth of yours apart. Andrew tried to intervene, but my dad blocked him, standing firm. Andrew, weakened by the drug's lingering effects, was no match for my parents. Some villagers quickly stepped in to separate everyone, urging, let's talk this out. No need to fight like this. Andrew glared at me with hatred. Anna, how dare you drug me and Emily? Do you have any proof to deny it? I smirked coldly and replied, proof? Let's see what the kid has to say. Andrew grabbed a timid boy, young Billy, and shoved him forward. Billy, tell them who told you to bring the water to me and Emily. Billy hesitated, stealing a nervous glance at me, before nodding and whispering, it was her. Anna told me to bring the water to Andrew and Emily. The crowd erupted in murmurs of shock and disapproval, their eyes filled with doubt and disdain as they turned toward me. I laughed mockingly. Billy, you're saying I gave you the drugged water? Then tell me, what did I give you to convince you to do it? Billy straightened his back and quickly replied, at the hill near the back. You gave me a piece of candy and told me it was just to help Andrew and Emily quench their thirst. I didn't know it had anything harmful in it. I stared at him, pressing on. What candy? Show it to us. Andrew, growing desperate, interjected. The candy's long gone. Anna, are you still trying to deny it? Ignoring him, I placed a firm hand on Billy's shoulder and lowered my voice. Billy, if you ate the candy, you must still have the wrapper, right? And you mentioned the hill. But you didn't say when it happened. Was it yesterday at dinner? Or the day before at lunch? Remember, kids who lie get eaten by monsters. I made a scary face, and Billy immediately started crying, pulling a crumpled candy wrapper from his pocket. It was this one. It was yesterday at dinner. I picked up the wrapper and turned to Andrew, holding it up. This candy looks familiar, doesn't it? Andrew, didn't you bring it back yourself? Your siblings, Evan and Luke, even bragged about it in the village, saying it was only for Emily and them, not for anyone else. Besides, yesterday at dinner, I was busy helping Mrs. Lou move things. Andrew, are you seriously trying to pin your disgusting schemes on me? Seeing things take a turn, Mrs. Lou, Billy's mother, angrily demanded, Billy, tell the truth. Who told you to drug the water? Terrified, Billy trembled and stammered. It was Andrew. He told me to give the water to Anna. Billy sobbed, trembling. But I really didn't know there was anything in it. Andrew said I was hurting people, and threatened to take me to the police if I didn't help him. The truth was finally out. Billy's mother, Mrs. Lou, stormed toward Andrew and Emily in a rage. You shameless scoundrels. Not only did you harm others, but you also dragged my son into it? Do you think I won't stand up to you? Andrew's parents tried to intervene, but Mrs. Lou was too quick and scratched their faces in the process. The situation spiraled further out of control, leaving the Gu family utterly humiliated. As for Emily, her reputation was completely ruined. With no other choice, she was forced to marry Andrew. Her parents, who had initially hoped to marry her off for a hefty dowry, were furious to learn she hadn't passed her college entrance exam and had also lost her virtue to Andrew. They severed all ties with her in anger. Andrew didn't want to take responsibility, but Emily used the threat of reporting him to force him into applying for a marriage certificate. Their wedding was an ugly affair. Andrew's mother tried to put Emily in her place, but Emily, never one to endure humiliation, argued back publicly, turning the ceremony into a shouting match. I didn't witness their wedding, though. On that day, my parents were accompanying me to the train station to send me off to college. Arriving at the university I had dreamed of for 2 lifetimes, I cherished every moment. I threw myself into my studies, never wasting a single opportunity to improve myself. When the reform and opening up policy gained momentum, I seized the chance to enter the business world. Before long, I earned my first significant profit, and my ventures continued to grow. I bought a house in the city and planned to bring my family to live with me. My grandmother, however, insisted on staying in the countryside, so I could only bring my parents to the city. It wasn't until 10 years later, after my grandmother passed away, that I returned to the village for her funeral. During that visit, I heard about Andrew and Emily's current situation. Andrew's mother, frail and in poor health, had left all the household chores to Emily. Spoiled and lazy, Emily refused to lift a finger, especially after becoming pregnant, delegating everything to Andrew's younger siblings, Evan and Luke. One day, while boiling water, they accidentally tipped over a pot of scalding water. Evan's hand was broken, and Luke suffered severe burns on her face, leaving her disfigured. When Andrew found out, he and Emily had a heated argument that escalated into a physical fight. Fed up with Andrew's mother's constant criticism and Andrew's lack of responsibility, Emily sent a letter of complaint that got Andrew expelled from the military. Forced to return to the village, Andrew struggled to find stable work. Their relationship only worsened. In their endless blame shifting, Andrew's mother passed away. Evan left home without a word, while Luke, unable to find a suitable match due to her scars, married a widowed butcher from a neighboring village and cut ties with her family. Why couldn't they have just lived a simple and honest life? Mrs. Liu, the neighbor, sighed as she recounted their story. I even heard Andrew was recently diagnosed with cancer. I smiled faintly at Mrs. Liu. Who knows? After finishing my grandmother's funeral arrangements, I prepared to leave the village. Just as I was about to get into the car, Andrew appeared, blocking my path. His hair was streaked with gray, and he looked far older than his years. Yet his eyes gleamed with excitement. Anna, he called out. You've been reborn, haven't you? I was wrong in our past life. Let's make things right this time. Emily was never good enough for me. She's vain and shallow. Nothing compared to you. My bodyguard immediately stepped between us, keeping him at bay. Covering my nose in disgust, I said, where did this lunatic come from? You reek. Stay away from me. Andrew froze, stunned. Those were the exact words he had once said to me in our past life, mocking me for what he called the stench of a country girl. He had scorned me for years, never realizing that the foul smell he despised wasn't mine, but the rot of his own decaying soul. Ignoring his desperate shouts, I got into the car. Andrew had been reborn, but just in time to face the miserable end that had always been his true fate. As the car started, the forsythias along the roadside were in full bloom. My spring was just beginning.